Okay, so in this video, we're going to build on what we've done previously and deploy our locally running blockchain network onto a public cloud Kubernetes cluster on Bluemix. So one of the a couple things you're going to need to download if you don't have this on your machine already or on your workstation is the BX Bluemix command line interface tool, as well as the Kubernetes control, the Kube control command line interface tool. I will put links to those as well as the detailed instructions step by step on how to actually deploy and create the clusters and how to deploy blockchain, which is the Hyperledger Fabric composer, onto that Kubernetes cluster as well on public Bluemix. So you'll have all those step-by-step instructions. I'll put the links underneath the video so you can follow those along. I wanted to kind of take you through what I've done previously here just to save some time in the video, because this will take some time to do. So I would plan about an hour probably from start to finish of creating a cluster and actually installing the Hyperledger Fabric on that cluster. It could take up to about an hour's worth of time to do that. So I'm using the Bluemix command line interface tools. I do recommend that. You can also create a cluster through the user interface, the UI tool, but I think it runs a little faster if you do it in the command line. So you can see I have no clusters created here. At this point, I run the BX cluster container service cluster create. I give it a name TS cluster, so that's going to be my cluster. And then you pretty much wait. So I would say go and grab some coffee. You can continue to type BXCS clusters, and this will take you through the actual different state of the cluster, and it'll go from deploying to eventually normal. When you hit the normal state, then you know it's up and ready to go. And this will probably take about a good 20 some minutes. You see this one took 23 minutes. I've seen it take a half hour or so. So it can take some time. Right now I'm still in that tracking network directory. So I want to change directories to this IBM container service directory, which contains scripts that I need to download or to install everything onto my container service, at least the runtime pieces of the Hyperledger Fabric, and create peers and create an ordering node and all those kinds of different things. It installs that and configures it for me, as well as the channel. So I'll put again a link to this and where you can get this. So you're going to download this from Git. You may need to edit some of those scripts. You may not. I did not for the doing the free cluster. I did a little bit for a paid cluster. So if you're just going to do the free one like this, you should be able to use it as is. You also want to run a bx cluster config. I forgot to give it the cluster name, so be sure you give it the bx cluster config cluster name. And this will give you an export command. Run this export command, just copy paste it, and you'll need that in order to actually let Kubernetes, the kube control command, connect to your Kubernetes cluster onto public Bluemix. So that's how it actually connects. And you'll need to do this every time you need to run kube control. So whether it's today, tomorrow, you open a new window, anytime you do that, run bxcs cluster config with your cluster, get this export, copy paste it, and you're good to go. Okay, so at that point then we want to actually install things and we have an up and running cluster. We want to put our Bluemix, our Hyperledger Fabric onto the Bluemix cluster. So what I will do is run this create all script, and you'll find that in your container registry, CS offering script, run create all with CouchDB. I recommend doing it with the CouchDB. What that does is install a database for you as well, and bind everything for you. So you're going to have a number of different things installed on your Kubernetes worker node. And this will take some time. It won't take as long as creating the cluster, but it's a good another 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, somewhere around that line. And you'll see that you're running the kube control commands. You'll have to run a number of these, and then that actually goes through, creates your database, your peers, certificate authorities, all those different things. You'll get a little bit of a countdown here. and then that'll get you through actually, to a point where you're starting to create channels, and eventually you'll actually install as well the playground, which we looked at before, which is very useful actually in this case. It's a way to kind of test out that everything is actually there. You see that in this script there. So we're running again kube control to do all these different things and connect to our Kubernetes cluster. Eventually get to the point when all these are installed and we are ready to go, and you'll see this chain code completed successfully message. Then you're good to go. You can run bxcs workers ts cluster, and that will give you the public IP address. You need this public IP address for a couple different things that we're going to go through here right now. So what you're going to want to do, we now have Hyperledger Fabric installed onto our cluster. It's a free cluster of Kubernetes within Bluemix, and I will go ahead and you can see it right here. This is also the public IP address. Again, you can do some things through here. I don't think it's as fast as if you do it just through command line, but I will take this public IP address, copy and paste it into here, and this should bring up my Composer Playground, which it did. So now I'm actually running. I know I have Hyperledger Playground and the Fabric installed on this cluster remotely. It's a public cluster. You could actually hit this and work with Hyperledger Composer right here that I've installed. So let me go ahead and close that out. You'll see it puts our peer admin card in there. Great, we need this. So and this is how we're going to actually connect to this. So I need to download it. Let me go ahead and download that. Put it in my Fabric Tools directory. And then I need to start working with it. So let me go ahead and get to my Fabric Tools directory. First you'll notice that, let's take a look at what we actually have in our wallet. So you'll notice that I have two cards in there, and these are both the local cards that we used before to connect everything locally on Docker. Now we want to be able to connect and do things remotely on our Kubernetes cluster. So I need to take that card that I just downloaded, and I'm going to need to import it into here. But before I can do that, I'm going to need to update that card. And there's a script to do that here, which is, I'm going to save you from having to watch me, type everything in. And I created my own little sheet, which I'll, give you all the commands again on how to do this. But what you're going to want to do is take this and update that card. Now, why do we need to update the card, you might say? So we need to update the card because that card is going to have all the IP addresses that are private on there. And we obviously can't hit a private IP address from the outside, so we need to change it and give it the public IP addresses. So let me go ahead and run the card. You see I just basically just cut and copy pasted it here. It ran, and it runs really fast, and it just extracts and updates everything to this public IP address for me now. So now I should be able, the card is useful to me, I should be able to go ahead and use it and hit our network for it. So let me go ahead and change directories into my tools directory. Oops. Okay, so I'm in Fabric Tools, which is where my card is. So I will run my import command. Same commands that we did before. We did things locally. We will do them remotely here. And if I do composer card list, you'll see that I now have a peer admin Bluemix listed in there in my wallet. So I will go ahead and install the runtime, exactly same things that we did before. Shouldn't take too long to do, but it may actually take just a hair longer probably than when we did things locally. And so that worked great. Did the runtime install. Now I need to do my network install. Let's take that same BNA file that we had before and install it. It does not exist. And why does it exist? Because I'm in the wrong directory. So go to my projects directory, tracking network, and we will run this again. There we go. So, and this should start our business network again that we had before, and it will generate a card for us. This network admin card, Bluemix. See it here, and then we'll have to import that one into our wallet again, so then we can go ahead and test this out. So let's go ahead and hopefully this will install here quickly. One of the things we need to we also can do on the install is we could install the Composer REST server. Now we're going to use the Composer REST server to actually test this out, and I'll do that in the follow-on video. But you could actually install it remotely. We're going to use our locally one, and we're going to connect to it. In order to do that, we obviously need to take this card and we need to import it into our wallet. So let's go ahead and import that into our wallet. And if I do a Composer card list, you should see that I have a couple different Bluemix ones now. I have this admin one. This is what we use to connect to it remotely, and then I also have this the peer admin one. Both of these are running on Bluemix. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and show you how to actually test this again. Thanks.